Okay, so hi guys, welcome to the fifth installment of UX University for 2021. My name is Pat Ramos, and I'll be teaching you guys about wireframing and content hierarchy essentials. So first things first, introduction. So who am I? So my name is Pat, and I'm currently a senior taking up BS Management Information Systems. I am the current president at UX Society, and I'm also a freelance UX UI designer. So previously, I was a UX research intern at Kumu, a UX intern at Instagrams, and a UX UI and web dev intern at 360 Digital Agency. I was also previously the VP for UX design at UXOC for the year 2019 to 2020. And I was also the finalist for UX Uni for the year 2018 to 2019. So yes, I was just like you guys. I was also a participant for this case competition a few years back. And my case study was on Ateneo's lost and found system. So this was my final product. A lot to be improved on pa, but I just also wanted to highlight how I went through the entire design process. Um, so basically, from research to my framing to finally doing the mock-ups and the prototypes up until pitching. But before I came up with my final product, so as you can see here, the homepage and the catalog page, I came up with these first. So these are what you call wireframes, and as you can see, these pages are more or less the same as this, only in paper form or sketch form. And these are what you call wireframes nga. So what are wireframes? So the analogy you will be using here is that if houses had blueprints, digital products would have wireframes. And a better or more specific definition siguro is that wireframes are similar to blueprints as they act as skeletal outlines of your digital product. So what we use them for, mainly we use them to provide a visual overview of your product structure, layout, user flow, functionality, and intended behaviors. So it's important that before you even get to sketching your wireframes, you have your user flows already in mind. You know what your product is gonna be for, and you have your intended behaviors for you users already in mind as well. Another thing we use them for is for collaborative sprints, just because they're super fast and easy to do, like with a team or even individually. You can use them to brainstorm for ideas before you get to um, designing talaga the actual mock-ups. And we can use them to test out the usability of or user flows of your product before or during the exploratory phase or pre-design phase. So when do we use wireframes? So as I've said earlier, we pretty much use them early in the design process to establish the basic structure of your page before even conducting or adding in your visual design. So a lot of people want to jump into making, the final mock-ups or making them look pretty, but it's important to highlight that wireframes are there to kind of give you a structure muna and hierarchy in terms of content. So these are three different images, but they are all wireframes. The difference lies in fidelity. So in here we have the low fidelity wireframes that mainly look like sketches, medium fidelity, ito medyo mukha na siyang tip art. And for high fidelity, it kind of looks like the final product now without colors. So what is fidelity though? So when we say fidelity, it entails the level of detail and finality in your design. So in this illustration, it kind of shows you the level of fidelity per uh type of mock-up. So if it's a sketch, if it's a wireframe, prototype, or design. And as you can see, the wireframes are pretty much in between like a sketch and a prototype, as long as it's able to validate your initial designs first. And as I've mentioned earlier, you do them early on in the design phase, so the level of commitment is pretty low. So yeah. And then we get to the four reasons why we wireframe. The first one is, as I mentioned earlier, it's really a fast and expensive way to collaborate with a team, or even you can do it alone. You can do it in more or less 10 minutes, more or less. Depends on how many screens. You don't need to be skilled in making sketches because you don't have to make your wireframes perfect naman anytime. Like, you don't have to be a master in drawing. You can do it with a team just because it's so easy now to do. Anyone can do it, and it's beginner friendly. Number two, second reason why we want a wireframe is because we want to prioritize content hierarchy. So content hierarchy is the strategic placement of the order of content on each page. Basically, it's how we organize our content on our digital products. And one thing that I'll be saying a lot in this presentation is that content is king, or rather, usable content is king, according to usabilitygeek.com. So yon, we want to prioritize content because by creating content that is useful to our users, it can actually create an impact on them, and it encourages them to actually use your product. So for example, if I am looking for job listings, of course I would go to a content that a platform that would have the content of job listings. So I would go to a job seeking platforms like LinkedIn, Calibre, um yeah. And I think what we have to remember here is that when we create our designs, we have to think about substance as well. So not just content, but our user flows, the functionality of our website, and so and so. And then one principle that we can also remember when dealing with content hierarchy is that for maximum impact, we can highlight our most important information and put them at the top of our pages. This is one of the many fundamentals naman, but this one is very basic. Like, of course, if you have important info, you would want your users to see it first, so you put them at the top. Third reason why we want a wireframe is because we want to visualize the structure of our product. So the thing about people is that they love visual feedback. So wireframes are a really great way to communicate like your early ideas or your early plans in terms of structure for your product. You can show them to your mentor to get feedback, to your client, to your team, and you can easily like iterate or revise na lang from there. And one approach when it comes to structuring your product is the core, extend, and jump approach, which I will be explaining in the next few slides. Ayan. So the core, extend, and jump approach is one of the many different approaches to structuring your product's content. So as you can see here, we have this illustration demonstrating also how it works. So at the top of the funnel, we have the awareness stage, which has the core stage, evaluation stage, which is the extend part, and purchase stage, which is the jump part. I'll be explaining in detail in the next few slides. So in here we have the core page, or core part. This section should pretty much introduce your product. You know what the product is about, and this should be able to hook a new user, as it will determine if the user will stay on the page or not. So for example, if I have like an e-commerce website or a clothing website, then I would have a description of my shop here. Maybe like a description of like what type of clothes do I sell, and um, basically a description of what your shop is about. And this should be able to hook in your user and let them decide if they want to scroll down my site pa. And then next we have the extend part. So this part enriches the core. It supplements the needs and actions of the user. So it supplements the information we have here. And this should more or less, not all the time, but it usually contains the actual product experience. So, for example, a while ago, if we have a clothing website for the core, um, and it has the description as a core, the extend part will have the actual clothes now or the catalog of your clothes for sale. So it will have images of your clothing and I guess descriptions therein of the clothes. And this should supplement what the shop is about. And then here in the jump phase naman, this should prompt the user to the next page in his or her product experience and should prompt them to make an action or decision. So for example, going back to the clothing website, if the core page has the descriptions and everything and the extend part has all of the images of your clothes, the catalog, the jump part should have like a call to action or CTA, allowing the user to make a decision if they will shop. So, kunya, nandiyan na yung mga buttons mo like shop now or purchase this item. And this is why you call it the purchase stage also. Because most of the time, this is where you kind of allow your users to make a decision if they will, purchase something or make an action from your product. So an example we have demonstrating the core, extend, and jump approach is our very own UX Society website. So I will just share my screen. Yeah, so this is our uxsociety.org website. You guys can check it out, plug lang. But in here, I will explain how the core extend and jump approach is also employed for this design. So in here, we have the core page or the core sections. We have a brief description about UX Soc, about how we empower people through design education. And right off the bat, this should let people know what the org is about. So it's about design education. Um, Here it's kind of a core part pa. It also explains who we are. A better description of UX Soc. We are a student-run org that advocates and practices human-centered design. So again, right off the bat, it explains to the user what the org is and who we are. When you scroll down naman, you get to the extend part, and this directly supplements the information that we have at the top. So if this part tells you who we are, this part naman tells you or supplements who we are by telling you what we do. So we practice user experience, we advocate for design education, and we craft intentional products. So it's very straightforward naman here. And then when you scroll down, you get to the jump part. This part is very small naman, but we made sure to make the CTAs prominent also. So as explained earlier, this is where we prompt the user to really make a decision. So in here, we really invited them to join the org through this button, or either that, or they can shoot us a message or follow us through our many online accounts. Yun. So that's just a quick walkthrough of the website. But if you check other websites also, usually landing pages, you would notice that they follow the core extend and jump approach just because it's a reliable way to kind of make the user flow from um being introduced to your product up until the decision making part of your product. So I will go back to the presentation. Yeah. Okay, for number four, we're going back to our fourth reason as to why we should wireframe. And that's because we want to do number two and number three with the least amount of distractions. So just a recap, number two was about prioritizing content hierarchy. And number three was all about structuring or visualizing your product structure. And we want to do both of those with the least amount of distractions. So when we say visual distractions, we mean the images, colors, illustrations, and other elements that may be for aesthetic purposes. And why we want to do that is because when we are given like a design task or any design task for that matter actually, like whether UX or not, we tend to jump into making them look pretty agad, and we tend to pay attention too much on like aesthetic and everything, when that shouldn't be the case. You know, good design isn't all about making it look pretty. It's all about also, yeah, a lot of elements like content hierarchy, structure, content itself, usability, and the actual function of your website. So that's what we want to address during the wireframing stage, and not, not making it look pretty and visually like aesthetic. So, ayan, we went through the four reasons as to how we should wireframe. But now we're gonna jump into like just very quickly some content hierarchy tips and do's and don'ts. So number one would be to highlight your most important content. So as you can see right here, we have two calling cards that pretty much have the same exact content. You have the name, her URL, her number, her email. The difference is this person decided to highlight her name, which makes a lot of sense. Because if you're giving out calling cards, what you really want people to remember would be your name. So again, going back to our principle here, wherein we said that for maximum impact, we would have to highlight our most important info and put it at the top. So it follows the same principle naman. Basically highlighting or making your most important info stand out. Okay, the next one is to have a clear call to action. So in here, I think this one is Facebook, but you have two buttons, so we invite friends and skip. But your intended action here would be to invite friends sana. So that should be your main call to action. However, this makes it seem like dalawa yung intended actions mo, and there's no distinction between the primary and the secondary button. Here they made it more distinct by keeping this other button parang naka-secondary na lang siya, instead of like um making it look the same. So this one has a clearer way of showing which one is your call to action, which is to really invite your friends. Ayan. This is similar to the previous one, but be mindful lang of having too much options. So in here, you have three CTAs. So that makes it really confusing for the user, like which action or decision should I mainly take ba talaga on this website. Whereas here in Wix, parang it tells you directly, oh, create your beautiful website, and my main action would be to start now. So in here, it's kind of fuzzy or not really clear which one I should be clicking, because they all look the same to me. So this principle doesn't only apply to buttons naman or CPAs. It can be like for in general of also for your website's content. You wanna be mindful also of your um users cognitive load, or how much info they can take in at a time. And lastly, for the content hierarchy tips, use white space to your advantage also. So here we have two versions of basically the same information and same illustration naman. But here, as you can see, parang what's highlighted here is the illustration. Actually, the illustration looks bigger. The You've Got Mail parang nasa baba na lang siya. But here, the design looks more balanced simply because of using white space. So I think that's the point of using white space talaga. It's to create balance in your design. And this design really employs that principle well. So yeah, that's another tip. And okay, so now that we've gone through like wireframing, content hierarchy, and some tips, we're getting to how to actually wireframe. So Ayan, before anything, let's talk about the components or anatomy of a wireframe. Basically, what should a wireframe look like, no? And how should it be structured? So as you can see here, even in this image, parang this person just uses a lot of lines and boxes. And even here, you can see the components themselves. Let me go through another photo. Ayan. So as you can see here, it's mostly just gray boxes and lines and headings. And why it's like that is because we want to minimize visual distractions and colors that can be, you know, very distracting for the user when presenting your structure. So and for specifics, for images and illustrations, usually we would have boxes that have these X marks on them. Icons would look like this. Buttons, usually minimum lang yan of two. You have your primary buttons that stand out more, and then secondary buttons na naka-outline lang. Then you have your video, some input fields. And in here, in this same Figma file, I already put some components. This is from another resource from the Figma community. So you guys can search up resources naman din about wireframing also. But this is the one I got lang that is I think most simple na. So you guys can check it out lang. It has na for web and mobile. But basically, yeah, you have headers, you have tabs, buttons again, and yeah. So as a quick overview lang naman of the components of a wireframe. But now let's get to how to actually wireframe. So step number one is to remember your user flows. So again, make sure you have your initial user flows in mind when mapping out your wireframes. Um, it's really not a good idea to jump into wireframing if you don't have your user flows yet and your content as well, because that's what you want to reference when making your wireframes. Second, again, remember content is king. So remember from your user flows, maybe list down the content that you will probably have in your pages. So ask yourself what will be the necessary features and pages of my product, what type of content will be featured in my product. So imagine mo na lang also in your head if it will be text heavy or image heavy. Because from there pa lang, just from listing down your content, you will already have an idea of how to structure like your product. And yeah, so the third step is to look out for your best practices. So if you're doing a delivery app, for example, check out Food Panda, check out Grab, and check out Uber. And if you look at those apps, you would notice probably something similar about the three apps, or even more if you're searching up more apps. But usually you would see something common in them, and that's not like coincidence lang. Sometimes the similarities are there for a reason, and it's because it's working um for their type of product. So look out for best practices as well, and that's something you should remember. Don't be afraid to not naman entirely copy, but don't be afraid to take ideas from similar products as the one you're currently offering. Kasi, yun nga, baka they're just employing their best practices also for their type of product. So yun, basically just look out for ideas for your wireframes as well. And the next step is to sketch, finally sketch, and don't illustrate. So what I mean by this is don't worry about making your wireframes look too perfect. When making wireframes, just think and sketch fast. Don't get too stuck up on creating the details. Because that's another job for later, which is, you know, the actual design and mock-up making na. So when wireframing, don't fret too much naman about like making it look perfect. And then number five is to solicit feedback. So, after you've sketched your wireframes, consult with your team, with your mentors, with your client, or better yet, work on your wireframes collaboratively if you're with a team. And this will help you improve your wireframes pretty fast just because you're hearing ideas from others again. And the sixth step would be to repeat everything you just did. So basically, just keep sketching. Your first sketch won't be perfect, and neither will be your second or your third. Everything improves naman from practice and from repeating it again and from getting feedback and just iterate. Okay, so those are the steps na. So just a recap on wireframing and content hierarchy. What are wireframes? Wireframes basically serve as the blueprint of your digital product. And the importance of wireframes is one, to save up on time and money. Two, to prioritize your content hierarchy. Three is to be able to come up with a visual or organized structure of your product. And one approach we can follow for this is the core, extend, and jump approach. Again, this won't be applicable to all types of products, but it's a good principle to remember and have when making your wireframes. And four is to avoid visual distractions such as too much color, making it look pretty and perfect. And just another recap on how to actually wireframe. So six steps. One is to outline your user flows. Second is to lay out or list down your content. Third is to search up for best practices and or similar page structures for inspiration. Fourth is to sketch and don't fret about making it look too perfect and pretty. Five is to solicit feedback early and a lot. And six would be to iterate. Basically, just do everything again until you get to your desired user flows and screens. And a few bonus, like some extra tips lang. One is to not fret too much about making your wireframes look pretty and perfect. I think I've said this a lot of times na in this presentation. Wireframes are all about structure and not really about the visual aesthetic and design. And then think in terms of flow, not individual screens. So remember your user flows, and when you're drafting your wireframes, think about how one screen will flow into another and the intended actions per screen and not really like the individual screens themselves. And three, get a lot of feedback, from your team, from your client, from your mentor, and apply them for every iteration. And of course, feel free to add in notes or scribble annotations in your wireframes because that will help you take note of improvements also and suggestions. So yeah, that marks the end of my presentation. But if you guys are up for a challenge, then we're gonna do a quick activity as well. So we are gonna sketch a wireframe of your favorite food delivery app. So again, applying the principles we've learned from wireframing, content hierarchy. Doesn't really have to be exact. What matters is the content and the hierarchy we employ for the product. So yeah, just gonna go to activity. Yeah, and again, our task is to sketch a wireframe of your favorite food delivery app. So for this, I've already highlighted the user flows and prepared them now before the activity. So for example, we're coming up with this imaginary food app, which is Gap Food, Grab Food, and here are the parts now of the website that we have outlined. It's a very simple user flow lang naman, but just for this activity, we have this. So Grab Food, we have the search, categories, recommended, favorites, promo. We have the restaurant page, order page, confirmed details, and booking confirmed. And here I've outlined the content now, but not entirely. So we're gonna add pa here from this activity. So for the homepage, what I was thinking, since I got na rin, inspirations from other food apps, basically we're gonna lay out the content here. So for a food app, in the homepage, you would usually have your navigation, um, um, your search, and then the categories themselves, and then actually the restaurants na. So for restaurants, you would have the name. Um, I think mostly the distance, no? Food delivery app kasi siya. And then the time it will take to deliver. Um, what else? Oh yeah, of course the image of your restaurant. And then for the restaurant page naman mismo, same. I think restaurant name, the distance, time it will take, and then the image also of the restaurant. Wait lang, let me check my notes because I also noted down. Um, I think, yeah, I also put parang if there's an option for a promo. So promo code available, if available, there. And then for the order page naman, we have basically the menu. So, oh, we're gonna add the menu rin pala here. So the menu, the categories, the food name, description, um, variations and orders, add-ons, quantity, and then here you will have your add to cart na. The menu na. And of course, the price pala. Ayan. And then for confirm details, I think the same lang naman. Um, yung address to deliver to, address of the restaurant. Else do we, oh, the total price, of course, of your order and your order summary, and then confirm button. And then for the booking, confirmed, again, your order summary, address summary, and then of course it will show you, since it's a delivery app, it will also show you time until it gets delivered. And yeah, I think that's most of the content na. So we're gonna do 5 quick pages lang naman on the food delivery app. If abot yung time. But yeah, okay, sige. Let's go on with the sketches. So here I've also pasted na a few similar apps. So here we have Food Panda, you have Grab. I think this one is Uber Eats, and this one is also Grab Food. So we're gonna do like quick sketch lang. Ideally, we can sketch on paper, but since we're presenting on Figma, I'm just gonna do it on Figma na lang as well. So we're gonna do a frame. And we have the iPhone. Um, and then if it helps, we're gonna add columns na para it's easier for us. And then since we already have the components here, which I pasted na rin naman sa Figma, we can just take. So again, earlier we listed down the content na, which is for the homepage, we want the navigation, search, categories, restaurants. So navigation, I think here we have the header component na. So I can just paste it. Medyo manadaya na lang ako since we have the components here already. Yan. Just gonna paste it there. Hmm. Yan. And then, copy this na lang part. Yan. Homepage navigation. And then we want a search bar. So let's see if we have a component. I don't think we do a search bar. Let's just use this as a text field. And then search. And example, that's the search bar na. And then we have the category. So for categories, I was thinking we can do something like this, how Uber Eats was able to do it. So parang may icon siya here and then the description na rin. So I was thinking we can do that. Let's get like my smaller image pa. Okay, gonna copy. Let's make it bigger na lang. Name it as category just so it's specific. And the thing about wireframes, you don't have to specify naman talaga like for example whether your category is ba like Italian or something. We don't have to specify it agad. You can just keep it general as in if it's a category, just name it category. Because we can get to the finer or specific content naman later. Okay, I'm just gonna keep that. Ayan. So, ayan. Kunyari, it will scroll naman to the left or right. And then, so we have the navigation, search, we have the categories. Now we want to add the restaurants. So as you can see, most of um the apps, parang they have this kind of thumbnail for the restaurant or the food, and then they have like the description na lang. So we can follow that format also. So again, you will have this, but medyo, okay, medyo bigger na siya. Yan, ganyan size. And maybe we can name it as can have like a section here for what do we usually have for food apps. Okay, usually we have the section for order again, and I think that fits our user flow naman. Siguro recommended or favorites. Order your favorites. Okay, and then that will be the title of our section. Then for the restaurant mismo, you can have like the restaurant name, resto name, and then maybe you can add also like the category of restaurant. So if it's Italian or something like that, let's make it a bit smaller. And then, yun, since here, Our most important info here would be the restaurant name. So that's why we want to make it bigger than like the category. And then like supplementing that info will be the category na lang, and then the distance and time it will take to deliver. So for example, 5 kilometers or something. And then 30 minutes. So actually I combine na lang 5 km. Yun yung format niya. Then, yan. Here. So we have the cards now with the restaurant info. And then we're just gonna copy. And scrollable na lang siya to the left or right. Then, actually, you can copy paste that section. Pero this one will be, ano naman, recommended. Kasi yun yung sa resources natin. Recommended. Then, we have another one for promo. Oops. Promo. So, ayun, we kind of have the wireframe now for the homepage, but we can refine it lang a bit. So, in here, we want to highlight this section, you order your favorite. So, let's put it under like a backdrop or something just to give it highlight. Because I don't know, as for me, when I order from a food delivery app, parang I always refer back to yung order again. Like I ordered the same things lang lagi. So I'm just gonna highlight that part na lang. And then, kunwari, ano, we did research na, tapos yun yung gusto natin i-highlight na part. There. Key. So I think mostly we did it now for the homepage. So as you can see from this, from outlining the content, navigation, search categories, restaurants, you were able to come up with the page na. So here we have the categories, the search, navigation, and then we were able to come up with sections na nga for our restaurant. So my favorites page or section, my recommended, my promo. And yeah, I think we can do another, like one more page siguro. So restaurant page or menu. So ayan. Um, ito yung info natin. So name, distance, image, promo code. Okay, and let's look through our similar websites. Parang it looks like this or this. Okay, here's the menu pala nila. So we can follow that same format also actually. You can keep the navigation and just delete this. And then what we want to highlight is the restaurant name again and the image. So let's make this image full size. And let's have the name of the restaurant somewhere here. You can actually reuse our component. Natin ganyan para may effect siya. So if you guys want to use then columns or grids, that would be super helpful then for your wireframes, or not only wireframes, but your mockups also, for you to have like a reference then on like the overall alignment of your content. And then, ano ba? Time it will take to deliver, distance. Yan, we have the menu na. So, sakto, I think we have, so may option tayo for tabs. You can just copy that ph. Just gonna copy it here. It's a bit big lang. So, get smaller. Hmm. Yan lang natin. Okay, and you're supposed to have one selected tab lang naman. I'm gonna remove that. And then, yan. So, yan, you can leave this as is naman. And then, since you have the menu now, you have the categories. All you need is the food name and description. So let's look at how they were able to do it. Ayan, they have the food image, um, the food itself, and then the description and the price. So we can do the same thing. Um, okay. Have a smaller image siguro, since what we want to focus on naman here isn't the food the image entirely, but the food. So you can have the full name, brief, description, and we're keeping it super general lang, since so let's see or visualize how it will look like at first before jumping into actual ano. And then you can have the price. I know that's something that a lot of users pay attention also. So let's highlight the price also. Like, PHP 100. There. Okay. And then you can have the button then to order. Um, have a button here for it. You know, then like add to cart or something. There. Let's make this bigger along. Hmm. 15 minutes. There. And then we can Just copy it na lang for the rest of our menu. There. So I think we covered also this one. Promo code if available. Okay, I can put somewhere also if my promo. Think can put it somewhere. Like for example 60%. And then let us like layout na lang and add in an effect. Ganyan. Here na lang. My promo, it will be there. And yeah, I think that's it for our menu page naman. So we were able to wireframe 2 pages. So the home page, where we have all of this content na. So yeah, navigation, search up until the restaurants. And also for the restaurants, we have the name, the distance, time it will take to deliver. We have the category. So this should be the categories part na. Parang they can tab through na lang the new categories. The image, of course, and if my promo, my 60% off, it says here. Um, for the menu items naman mismo, you have the food name, the description, and then the price. What we wanted to highlight here was really the food name and the price, because as like a user, that's usually what people look at naman, and then secondary na yung description, and then of course my buttons for add to cart. Um, but yeah, I think the rest of the pages siguro you guys can do na lang din if you want to follow through or continue with this activity. But for the sketching phase, ideally if you guys can sketch it on paper, then that would be great. It would be faster and easier for you guys then to sketch, because in here it's kind of medyo maarte na yung ginagawa natin if on Figma. But yun nga, we have the components naman. And I guess like take advantage na rin of the components if you can. And yeah, so that's it for step number 4. For step number 5 and number 6 naman, we can really do it right now since you haven't finished in the sketches. But basically, once you've had like all of the wireframes already, you guys can solicit feedback from your teammates or your mentors also, since you have mentors naman as well. And then iterate based on that na lang. So I think that's it for the activity. Very short lang naman, just a walkthrough. Then it might take super long na if I go until the next pages pa. But yeah, so I think that marks the end of my workshop as well. So yes, thank you very much, UX Uni, for having me as well. And good luck to all participants for this year's UX Uni.